Hello.
All Marcus wanted was a quiet breakfast. Instead, two police officers chose to make him their problem. And that's when a single phone call would bring their whole world crashing down. It was one of those grim Wednesday mornings in Augusta, Georgia, around 8:15, the kind where a heavy gray quilt of clouds smothers the sky and the sun seems to have given up entirely. Tucked away on Peach Street, nestled between a coin laundry and a loan shop, sits a small cafe. It's the type of diner where the coffee has the bitter taste of yesterday, yet you find yourself returning anyway. In his regular corner booth, you'd find Marcus Thompson with his back against the wall so he could see the door. It had been his spot every week for the last 2 years. His old navy jacket was clearly past its prime. The sleeves were frayed and the collar had lost its color after countless washes. But he somehow kept it immaculate. Gray was starting to creep into his hair at the temples, and his beard was rough, suggesting he maintained it with whatever tool was available. He carried the scent of dark coffee and cheap pouch-rolled tobacco. He wasn't one for idle chatter, but he always showed everyone a basic level of decency. "Morning, Mr. Thompson," greeted Betty, the waitress who commanded the diner with an owner's authority. Maybe 35, with 3 children at home, she glided between the tables with the grace of a conductor leading a symphony. "Betty, any of that apple pie left from yesterday?" he asked. A grin spread across her face. "You're well aware dessert isn't served before noon." "The usual?" A slight nod from Marcus was all she needed. She never had to write it down. A pair of eggs over easy, a side of hash browns, 3 sausage links, and wheat toast, provided it wasn't burnt. His coffee was always black, without sugar or cream. It was the same order every single time. Eddie, the diner's owner, peered over his reading glasses from his post at the grill. "That fellow knows this business better than I do," he murmured to Betty. "There are days he's the only thing keeping me from just turning the key and leaving," she confessed in a whisper back. For any stranger just passing through, Marcus appeared to be a man just scraping by. There was no vehicle waiting for him. His clothing wasn't new, and his boots looked like they had seen 1,000 hard miles. But for the staff of this little cafe, he was considered one of them. He was the reserved kind, certainly, but they trusted him implicitly. Marcus kept to himself, nursing his coffee while the morning news played on an old television mounted over the counter. A segment came on about veterans being cheated out of their benefits. He showed no outward reaction, merely exhaling slowly through his nose before turning his gaze back to the window. The morning traffic was beginning to pick up outside. University students rushed to their lectures, parents did their school drop-offs, and local workers navigated the commute to the nearby base. At first, no one paid any mind to the squad car that pulled up. It moved without urgency. With no sirens or flashing lights, 2 officers emerged as if it were any other Tuesday. And for them, perhaps it was. Officer Bradley got out first, a tall man who carried himself like a former football player who still believed he was the team captain. His partner, Officer Martinez, was shorter, more solidly built, with a notepad visible in his shirt pocket. They entered the cafe with a practiced air, like they'd performed this routine countless times, which was likely true. Betty saw their approach and flashed her professional smile. "Good morning, officers. Your regular table?" They paid her no attention. Bradley had already zoned in on Marcus like a predator spotting its prey. "Sir, excuse me," he said, striding directly to the booth. "Are you a paying customer in this establishment?" Marcus looked up from his coffee, then gave a single, slow nod. "I am." "Did you actually purchase anything?" Martinez chimed in, taking out his notepad. "Breakfast and coffee. It should be on its way." Bradley's eyes shifted toward the kitchen. "Do you have a receipt?" Betty quickly interjected. "His credit is good here. He's a weekly customer." Bradley didn't even bother to look at her. "Was I speaking to you?" Betty's face flushed with anger, but a gesture from Eddie behind the counter stopped her. "Take it easy, Betty," he said softly. Marcus remained perfectly calm, his voice even and his expression untroubled. "I paid upon ordering." "She can confirm." Martinez narrowed his eyes at him. "You carrying any identification?" Marcus slowly reached into his jacket, retrieving a worn wallet that had seen much better days. He pushed his Veterans Affairs card across the table. Bradley glanced at it and made a face as if he'd tasted something foul. "This is everything you have?" "It's everything I require," Marcus stated. Martinez let out a short, sharp laugh, as if Marcus had delivered the world's lamest punchline. "Yeah," he sneered, "we'll be the judge of that." But right then you could feel the whole place go dead quiet, like the air before a thunderstorm. You just knew something bad was about to happen. Martinez steps closer, crossing his arms like he's already decided Marcus is guilty of something. How long you been sitting here? He asks. Marcus glances at the clock above the door. Maybe 40 minutes or so. Bradley tilts his head. And how long you planning on camping out? Marcus's jaw tightens just a little, but his voice stays steady. Long enough to eat my food, just like everybody else. Betty slides his plate onto the table, trying not to look nervous. Here's your breakfast, Mr. Thompson. Bradley raises his eyebrows. He already ordered? Betty doesn't back down this time. He comes in every Wednesday morning, pays cash up front, never causes any trouble. He's one of our regulars. Martinez turns back to Marcus. You homeless? Marcus nods slowly. Don't have an apartment, no, but I've got a place in this community. Bradley smirks. Oh, you got all the answers, don't you? Marcus says nothing. He picks up his fork and takes another bite. Like maybe if he ignores them, they'll just disappear. But they don't. See, here's the thing, Bradley announces, looking around like he's giving a speech to the whole restaurant. People think they can just set up camp anywhere they want. Take advantage of good folks like these hardworking people here. That seem fair to everybody else? The place goes dead silent. Nobody wants to make this worse. A young couple at the corner table suddenly finds their pancakes real interesting. Some guy waiting for his takeout order shuffles his feet by the register, but nobody says anything. Marcus cuts another piece of sausage, chews it slow, wipes his mouth with his napkin. I did 3 tours in Afghanistan, came home, worked construction in Alabama till my back went out. I get by on my own, don't steal from anyone, don't ask for handouts. I pay for what I eat. So why are you talking to me like I just robbed a bank? Bradley laughs, but it's not a friendly sound. Easy there, hero. Just making sure everything's on the up and up. Part of the job. Betty steps forward, and you can see the fire in her eyes. Then check the cash register. He paid when he sat down. I've got the receipt right here. What more do you want? But Bradley acts like she's invisible. Martinez pulls out his little notepad. Full name? He asks. Marcus raises an eyebrow. It's right there on the card you're holding. I want to hear you say it out loud. Marcus lets out a long breath. Marcus Thompson. Date of birth? March 15th, 1967. Bradley nods at Martinez. Check it. Martinez heads back to their patrol car, mumbling something under his breath. Eddie finally comes out from behind the counter, drying his hands on his apron. Officers, could I have a word with you outside? Bradley waves him off. We're handling it, sir. No, you're really not, Eddie says, and his voice is getting harder now. That man has never caused one bit of trouble in my place. You got an actual complaint here? Or are we just picking on veterans for fun now? Bradley finally looks at him. Sir, we're responding to a call. Eddie frowns. A call from who? Bradley doesn't answer. He just shifts around and keeps staring at Marcus like he's waiting for him to do something stupid. Marcus finishes his last bite of hash browns and pushes his empty plate away. He wipes his hands clean and reaches back into his jacket. This time he pulls out an old cell phone. One of those flip phones that looks like it's from another decade. What's that supposed to be? Bradley asks, suddenly sounding nervous. Marcus flips it open, hits a number that's clearly on speed dial, and waits. Eddie leans closer. Marcus! But Marcus just holds up one finger as someone picks up on the other end. He puts the phone to his ear. There's a pause, then, calm as anything, he says, it's happening again. And right then you could feel the whole atmosphere change. Nobody knows who he just called, but that silence that follows, it's the kind that makes your ears ring. Bradley narrows his eyes, watching Marcus like he just lit a fuse. Who the hell did you just call? Marcus doesn't even blink, doesn't say a word. He just closes that old phone, sets it down next to his empty plate, and leans back in his seat. You said you were just doing your job, Marcus says, voice quiet but steady. Well, now I'm doing mine. Bradley steps closer, all puffed up now, hands moving to his belt. Sir, I need you to get up and step outside with me right now. Eddie's had enough. No way. He's not going anywhere unless you're actually arresting him for something. Martinez comes back from the car with some kind of tablet in his hands. Name checks out, he mutters, scrolling through whatever he's reading. VA records show veteran status. Honorable discharge, 3 tours, Purple Heart. Bradley doesn't even care. He got a home address? Nope, no permanent residence. He got picked up in Savannah last year for sleeping in a park. Bradley nods like that's all he needed to hear. So he's a drifter. Doesn't belong camping out here all day, taking up space from real customers. Betty slams her order pad down on the counter so hard it makes everyone jump. We've got customers who nurse one coffee for 3 hours every single day, and you don't say a word to them, but you walk in here and go after the one person who actually deserves some respect. Bradley points at her. Lady, I'd suggest you back off. Don't you dare tell me what to do in my own work with this spell. She fires back. Marcus stays in his seat, completely calm, but his fingers tap the table edge. 1, 2, 3 times. He doesn't look mad, just tired. The kind of tired that goes all the way down to your soul. You look at me and see a problem, he says to Bradley. But I'm not the one causing a scene here. That's when Bradley finally loses it. All right, that's enough. Get up, now. Marcus slowly stands up, and suddenly he looks taller than he did sitting down. Straighter, too. He looks Bradley right in the eye. I don't want any trouble. Bradley reaches for his handcuffs. You should have kept your mouth shut instead of getting smart with me. But before he can grab Marcus's arm, the front door flies open so hard it almost comes off its hinges. The little bell above it doesn't even get a chance to ring properly. It just smacks the wall and swings back crazy. A guy walks in. Looks like he's in his 40s, wearing a sharp black suit and a long coat that probably costs more than most people make in a month. No uniform, but you can tell he's got power just by the way he moves. He walks straight toward their table without even glancing around. He flashes a black wallet with some kind of official ID. Deputy Director James Mitchell, Department of Justice. Bradley freezes with his handcuffs still halfway out of his belt. Mitchell's voice is ice cold and cuts through the room like a knife. Officers, I need your badge numbers, right now. Martinez stumbles over his words. Sir, we were just responding to a call about... There was no call. Mitchell cuts him off sharp. We monitor police radio chatter for certain situations. Everything you've done here has been recorded. You've both been violating procedure from the minute you started harassing this civilian without any cause. This man is a war veteran, not some criminal. Bradley's face turns bright red. Look, with all due respect, you're not our boss. No, Mitchell says, real calm. I'm the guy who's about to investigate you. Marcus doesn't say a single word. He just sits back down, smooth as silk, like this whole thing is exactly what he expected. Eddie lets out this long breath he's been holding. Betty's eyes are huge, darting back and forth between all these men like she's watching some TV show. Bradley looks around the cafe and realizes everyone's staring at him. Everyone heard what just happened. Everyone saw him try to arrest a veteran for eating breakfast. And he knows there's nothing he can do to take it back. But here's the worst part for these two cops. Martinez's body camera has been recording this whole time, and what it caught is going to ruin their careers. Mitchell doesn't sit down, doesn't smile, doesn't even raise his voice. He doesn't need to. I suggest you both step outside. Now. Bradley and Martinez hesitate like little kids who just got caught stealing cookies, but eventually they walk out with their heads down and their shoulders all hunched up. The cafe stays quiet, but it's not a comfortable quiet. It's the kind where everyone's holding their breath. Marcus reaches for his coffee cup. Still warm. Mitchell stands next to the booth with his hands behind his back. He leans in just a little, voice quiet enough that only Marcus can hear. You doing okay? Marcus nods. Didn't want to have to call you. I know, Mitchell says back, but you were right to do it. Betty finally finds her voice. Wait, what the hell just happened? Who are you? Marcus glances up at her. Old friend from back in the day. Eddie crosses his arms. You got friends who show up with Justice Department badges and shut down cops in the middle of harassing people? Marcus gives the tiniest smile. Depends on who's doing the harassing. Mitchell turns to Betty and Eddie. Sorry for the chaos, we won't take long. I just need a few minutes with Mr. Thompson. Eddie nods. Take all the time you need, coffee's on the house. Marcus shakes his head. Put it on my tab, I always pay my way. Betty gives him a little smile. Yeah, you always do. Mitchell slides into the booth across from him. His whole attitude changes now, less official, more like he's talking to an old buddy. Which he is. You sure you're all right? Marcus shrugs. I've had worse days, but I've had a lot better ones too. Mitchell's eyes get serious. This the 4th time this year, Marcus? Yeah. You want me to take this all the way up? Marcus doesn't answer right away. He just folds his napkin neat and sets it next to his empty plate. Do whatever you need to do. I'm sick of having to prove I belong somewhere to people who already decided I don't. Mitchell nods. You shouldn't have to. Not after everything you sacrificed for this country. Marcus's face gets hard for just a second. They only remember that when I'm wearing my uniform. Not when I'm sitting in a diner trying to eat my breakfast. Mitchell sighs. They'll both be suspended. Probably worse. Marcus looks at him steady. I don't want their apologies. I want them to show some respect. I want them to learn something that actually sticks. Mitchell pulls out his phone. The body camera footage gets flagged for review today. Internal Affairs will call you, probably want to interview you twice. Then we notify the media. Marcus doesn't even blink. Let everyone see it. Maybe next time they'll think before they pull this crap. Outside the window, Martinez is pacing by their patrol car, arms crossed tight. Bradley's on his phone, looking like he's about to throw up and punch someone at the same time. Inside, Betty's back to pouring coffee refills. But every few seconds, she looks over at Marcus. She's never seen this side of him before. Nobody here has. And that's the thing about guys like Marcus. You're right, sorry about that. Here's the rewrite of page 4. They don't show off. They don't make noise. They just carry more weight than most people ever will. And they do it quietly. Mitchell stands up. He puts a business card face down on the table. You call that number if anyone else gives you trouble. You hear me? Marcus nods. Thanks for coming. Mitchell stops and looks him right in the eye. The people who matter appreciate what you did, what you've been through. But outside, something's starting to build. And what Marcus doesn't know yet is that the real storm is just getting started. And it's not coming from those two cops. It's coming from the internet. 2 hours later, the cafe is back to normal. Coffee cups clinking, forks scraping plates, the usual morning chatter mixing with the old radio crackling behind the counter. But something's changed. It's not just that Marcus is still sitting in his corner booth. It's the way people are looking at him now. Longer stares, curious glances, some respectful, some just plain nosy. Betty leans over while she's topping off his coffee. You sure you want to hang around? Half the town's already talking. Marcus shrugs. I didn't do anything wrong. Eddie grunts from behind the grill. You didn't. But people don't care about facts. They care about gossip. Marcus takes a sip of his coffee. Then they better bring their own entertainment. I'm not putting on a show. That gets a little laugh out of Betty, but it doesn't last long. The chime of the cafe door announced a new arrival, but it wasn't a customer. It was a teenager, phone in hand, who walked directly to Marcus. You're the veteran from the video, right? She asked, not waiting for an answer. The body cam footage is all over TikTok. It's blowing up. Marcus was speechless. Before he could process it, the girl was telling him he was trending, that people were calling him a hero. You're not invisible anymore, she said, and then disappeared as quickly as she'd arrived. She was right. The internet didn't just watch, it investigated. Within hours, the story of his harassment in the diner was eclipsed by the story of his life. People unearthed his past. A decorated soldier from a top-secret rescue unit, Operation Desert Hawks. A quiet man with a paper trail of heroism that no one had ever spoken about. This wasn't just some guy getting hassled. This was a hero the country had forgotten. The public backlash was swift and fierce. The Augusta Police Department issued a statement promising a review, but it was too late. Reporters dug into Officer Bradley's history, uncovering a pattern of harassment complaints that had been buried for years. Faced with undeniable video evidence and public outrage, the careers of both officers were effectively over. While all this happened, Marcus knew nothing about it, sitting in the cafe with yesterday's newspaper. The call came from his friend, Mitchell. You might want to brace yourself, he said, his voice serious. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Senators, news stations, veterans groups. A charity wants to get you an apartment. Marcus let out a shocked laugh. All I did was try to eat my breakfast. No, Mitchell replied. You fought back without throwing a punch. But the offers of help felt distant and unreal. While strangers on the internet turned him into a symbol, Marcus was still spending his nights at the local shelter. The stiffness in his bad knee, a constant, painful reminder of his reality. The fame meant nothing when he was still using his jacket as a pillow. The noise, however, had finally gotten too loud for the government to ignore. One Tuesday evening, a black SUV stopped outside the shelter. 2 men in crisp suits got out and asked for Marcus Thompson. They approached him not with questions, but with a thick manila envelope. Inside was an official letter from the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. It was a full apology, followed by a concrete offer, fast-track housing, a personal caseworker, and counseling. Everything he had earned but never received. The official letter was not the end of the story, but a new beginning. A few weeks later, after moving into a modest apartment provided by the VA, Marcus walked back into Eddie's cafe. The cameras and reporters were long gone. It was just the familiar morning crowd. He didn't sit down. Instead, he stood in the middle of the room and spoke, his voice quiet but clear. He said he wasn't a hero and never asked to be a story. He talked about the thousands of veterans who remain invisible, who don't ask for parades, just a little dignity. Being broke isn't a crime, he said, his words landing with gentle force. And asking to be treated like a human being should never be met with handcuffs. There was no applause, just a quiet, profound understanding that filled the room.
Goodbye.